Hey, Stefan.
How you doing?
Hey,
James.
yeah, nice to see you.
Love this show.
Thank
loved
you.
it. Finished it all.
Oh,
Ace.
great.
Yeah. Before we start, so about 18 years ago, I was in a bar around the corner called Moonlighting Bar, I think it was called, and they had a night called Cheapskates, right? And it was like a uni student night, and I would have been 19 years old. And I saw you there, and I was like, oh, it's that guy, I've seen him on the telly. And you were at the end of the bar, and we weren't getting served for ages, right? And eventually they came over to us, and you could see that I'd been waiting for ages, and you got a drink, and you looked at me and went, and would you like a drink as well? And you bought me a drink.
Oh, wow.
And I said to you, oh, thank you so much. And you said, well, it's only 80p, but you do owe me 80p. So I know it's been 18 years.
Oh my God. That's so good.
Who has changed these? It's surely a quid by now.
Thank you
I'm
so
a man of my word. I've not taken inflation into account. But I
that's
said
amazing.
I'll pay you back.
I'm so glad that's where that story
Yeah,
went.
yeah.
I thought you were gonna say, and you ordered a load of drinks, you didn't even look at me,
No,
you
bought me
didn't
a-
tip, and
you
then you
bought me a
sort of-
drink. It was
oh,
very
that's
kind.
great. Thank you.
That's all right.
I'm not surprised.
To be honest, the
hear
only reason I
that,
paid you
Jack.
back is because I saw this show and I'm absolutely terrified of you now.
Yeah.
But I will start. I mean, I did love your performance as Adam, and I mean, without sort of giving too much away, he's kind of charismatic, but there's a kind of darkness to him. But I was wondering, is it important not to play him like a caricature and maintain that kind of subtlety and nuance? And was that ever quite? I mean, the script is wonderful as well, but obviously you can always. Is that a balance to kind of to walk along, to not play him too much like a kind of pantomime character?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was very hard in the first episode in particular because he presents as something very differently to the characters, but also to the audience. And you sort of want to charm everyone, and he inveigles his way into this family, and he's only able to do that because, he is. Presents as someone that's really indispensable and kind and fun and an enjoyable presence to be around. So you have to have that, but then you have to underpin everything with hinting that there is this inner darkness and hinting at the direction of travel, not only for the character but the show. And that's what James was so great at creating in that pilot episode, was this sense of foreboding and it feeling like it is going to be one of these shows where we kind of marry together these two very distinct tones and surprise the audience in the direction that it goes.
I mean, you just surprised me the whole way. Every time I thought the show was one thing, it just kind of became something else. But another thing I loved was the music. And I wanted to ask you about the kind of music in this, because I'm interested to know, in your writing, do you choose kind of songs in advance to kind of then map out a scene in your head, to how they might kind of illustrate or kind of like dictate the kind of tone of a scene? Or is it something that comes in the post?
No, some of them were written in from the very beginning. So I wrote the first page I ever wrote of Malice 4 years ago had that Mick Jagger song, Sweet Thing, on the page, and to my amazement, 4 years later, we were shooting it. And I sometimes even write the lyrics in. So Mick Jagger and Leonard Cohen were very much written in the scripts. And then other tracks in it came suggested by other people, like there's the really brilliant Massive Attack, Young Father's track at the end of episode 2. So that was a suggestion. And then a brilliant composer called Alexei Grapsas found all these strange instruments to try and create a character for the show that suited it, that was sort of thrillery but unusual and had some dark wit. He used all these extraordinary strange instruments, plucky instruments and strange instruments from the Baltics or Africa, or synthesizers from the 1930s that look like a nuclear power station when you play them. And so he had huge fun with that. And then all these things combined together to hopefully create a really characterful, distinctive tone that's thriller with comedy.
Yeah, and I mean, a great title. I mean, Gabriel's, his voice is just my favourite thing in the world. And what a great track to have as the kind of credits song for this.
Oh, I'm glad you like that.
But I was going to ask, I mean, Jack, of course you are renowned primarily for your kind of comedy and the kind of lighter roles. It's great to see you in a kind of role like this. I'm interested to know, were you looking for a more dramatic role, or did the dramatic role kind of find you?
I'd say a little bit of both. And, as an actor, you don't want to just be doing the same thing over and over again. And you can definitely get to a place where you end up being a little bit pigeonholed and doing the same types of parts, and it can feel a little like you're on autopilot. And so, the great thing about acting is finding these roles where you're properly challenged and you're going to work every day and you're feeling excited about the work that you're doing. And my two forays into dramatic acting have both involved James. The first one was Decline and Fall, which was the first time I'd ever done anything that tonally, was a little bit more of a stretch for me, and was playing a part that was maybe slightly more nuanced than some of the stuff that I'd done previously. And so then, this was even more of a departure, and was definitely the type of role that I've been trying to kind of like seek out and get myself in the room with directors to have the opportunity to read for things like this. It never had quite fallen my way. And then I got sent this script and, was just like snap their hand off, because it's a glorious part to get the opportunity to play and just sort of lose myself in a character in a way that I've never had the opportunity to do before.
It was sort of written and built for him, really. We knew we needed someone who could be a really charming, funny, entertaining, sort of perfect Manny, but also have an underlying sort of darkness and a secret, and it's a sort of why is he doing it thriller. And so when we conceived of it, we always thought you would want a particular energy in the lead role, so we got Jack involved very early.
Yeah. Just very finally, I just wanted to ask about kind of the notion of that trouble in paradise. I love, because all the scenes kind of set in Greece. You had it obviously in the kind of White Lotus show as well, and I guess Night Manager to some degree a few years ago. But I love it when you have this like, beautiful aesthetic backdrop, but there's a lot of kind of dirt and grit happening. What do you think it is about that setting, and why Greece for that kind of segment, I suppose, or half of the story?
Yeah, sort of summer noir. I think it's a little mini genre of dark thrillers set in sunshine. But we chose Greece, I think, really because it's a psychological thriller about a family, and I was aware that you could end up with the whole thing set in one house. And obviously, wealthy families tend to have two homes. So probably the greatest creative decision I've ever made was to think, well, they can have a house in Greece. So we went off to Paros. And that allowed us to have two very different tones to the show. So episode 1, 2, and 6 are in Greece. And Greece because, I suppose, just myself and my producer friend Imogen are great fans of Greece. Her mum lived there, we knew it well. And a story about revenge and retribution taps into Greek myths. And there's a scene in episode 1 where he talks about Nemesis. And I've always loved Greek myths, and so to tell a sort of story that feels mythic but hopefully really contemporary and fun and dark and thrilling at the same time, Greece just seemed like a great tableau, really. And
you got a holiday in Greece.
Yeah, and also I do think people love those. Yeah, that was great.
Not a holiday.
That bit was great.
Well, no, not a holiday.
More set visits than any other job I've ever done. That you can't drag an agent kicking and screaming to visit you on set and buy you lunch, but on this, they were all out of the woodwork. Even agents that I didn't even realise I had would suddenly be there on set. But I think the other thing that works in terms of like the location and that incredible villa and the Tanner family and why people like these stories is I do also think they like watching people whose lives are kind of seemingly perfect being put through the ringer and having to suffer a little bit. I don't think the show would work if it was me turning up as a Manny and just ruining a family's holiday at Centre Parks.
Yeah.
No, it's a little vogue at the moment, isn't there, for watching wealthy people being brought down.
Yes.
We quite like it.
Yeah.
It sounds like an idea for season 2 though. I like that.
Yeah. Just
Cheers.
me
Well, thank you so much,
on a
guys.
Jet 2
Hey,
holiday.
nice to meet you. Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey you guys!
Hey, you guys!